I'm probably going to upset a lot of you with this one. There's been a lot of talk lately about the future of Leichhardt Oval after New South Wales Premier Chris Minns dismissed the West Tigers' request for state funding to upgrade the venue. People are up in arms about the fact that one of rugby league's most storied venues could be abandoned at the end of the year, and I completely understand that. But there's far more to the story than just that. Make no mistake, moving away from Leichhardt Oval is an absolute blessing to both the NRL and the Tigers. Here's why. The NRL is in a fantastic position at the moment. Average crowds are higher than they've ever been, and they're far more consistent too. Over 2/3 of the NRL's crowds this year have been over 20,000, which is a huge uptick from pre-COVID numbers. But despite its hill space, Leichhardt Oval would really struggle to hold 20,000. And realistically, even if it could, it doesn't attract those numbers anyway. In 2023, the average crowd at Leichhardt was only 13,000, and it was even lower in 2022. I understand the argument that were the stadium to be redeveloped, the crowds would be bigger. Better stadiums, more people come out to those stadiums. I absolutely accept those arguments. But given the figure of 20,000 that, as a gain, we should be aiming for, is that effect really enough? Even the proposed redevelopment plans still have the capacity at 20,000. So unless the Tigers sold out literally every single game they played there, Leichhardt would still continue to bring down the average. And even then, if the Tigers or the NRL have money lying around to reinvest into a stadium, it should definitely be their other one, but more on that later. The other issue is identity. The Tigers cop a whole heap of criticism, and understandably so. The club has won the last 2 wooden spoons, and they haven't finished in the top half of the table in 12 years. They've gone through various coaches, various playing rosters, and the lack of success just remains the same. Speaking on the bye round with James Graham, former Tigers CEO Justin Pascoe said, "The biggest challenge the club faced in my time there was a lack of identity, and that the loss of connection and that identity has hurt the club over the last 10 years dramatically." Since their inception, the West Tigers have tried to balance their commitments equally between Balmain and the western suburbs, but in doing so, they've somewhat disenfranchised each area. In my opinion, an integral part to any sports franchise is the people that you play for and the area that you represent. It gives you a purpose and it drives your identity. The Roosters are seen as the glamour club because of the demographics of the eastern suburbs, just like how the Panthers are seen as the hard-nosed working class club because of the demographics of Penrith. Your club is, quite literally, defined by the area that it represents. But the Tigers have been trying to live a double life, embracing 2 extremely different demographics at once, and it just hasn't been effective. Look at the only other amalgamated club in the NRL, the St George Illawarra Dragons. No offense to Dragons fans, but I think they'd be the first to admit it hasn't exactly worked out for them either. The Tigers need to embrace one area, and to me it's bleedingly obvious which one they should pick. Campbelltown is as much a demographic asset to the NRL as Penrith is. Its population is 83% the size of Penrith's. It's also one of the youngest areas in Australia. It has one of the highest Tongan and Samoan populations in Sydney. It is absolute rugby league heartland, and it's an area that some other clubs would kill to have at their disposal. It's the corner of Sydney that produced James Tedesco, and yet it is an amazingly untapped resource. In that Bye Round podcast episode, Pascoe revealed that he's told the Tigers board that moving from a 50-50 split to more games in Campbelltown is definitely what's best for the club. Unlike Leichhardt, which is situated among narrow suburban streets with very little public transport access, Campbelltown is located 250 metres from a train station. It has its own bus stops and even features its own parking complex for the nearby Leagues Club. On every front, it is simply the better choice. Look, I understand the value that our sport places upon its history. I think that's an absolutely fantastic quality that we have, and I'm proud that the NRL does that. But growing means recognising that certain things have had their time and initiating change. The fact is, Leichhardt Oval is no more a part of Australian Rugby League history than North Sydney Oval or Henson Park. And are many people really looking back now, regretting the fact that we moved on from there? I raised that point on Instagram and someone replied to me saying, yeah, but Norths and Newtown played at those 2 stadiums until the clubs went bust. And yes, that is absolutely true, but the Balmain Tigers haven't played a game since 1999. There is absolutely a place for the West Tigers to embrace their combined 200 years of history and the 15 premierships that Wests and Balmain won. But it's time for the West Tigers to move on. It's time for them to create a new home where Tigers fans can sit in the grandstands and yell, "Where's your Queensland spirit now, Dearden?" So I guess, do you agree with me, or do you think that I'm an absolute rugby league heathen who has no respect for the history of his sport? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.